started recording this session. And this recorded session will be available in our District 116 website by tomorrow. Now, let me invite our District Director, DTM Raghavan Menon, to deliver his opening address. Over to you, DTM Raghavan.
Thank you, Venkat. And Assalamu alaikum and good evening, good morning to all the listeners who are there from all across the world. Welcome to this webinar. Now, first of all, let me introduce the current world champion of public speaking, Aaron, little bit with whatever I know about him. Aaron is a dynamic speaker helping introverts and quiet voices in the room thrive in the workplace using public speaking and storytelling. He worked as project manager at JP Morgan's Corporate Investment Bank, a dynamic leader with extensive expertise in strategic projects, communication, and team leadership. He specializes in operating model enhancement, business technology, adoption, and end user training and development. As we all know, Aaron became the 2019 Toastmasters International World Champion of Public Speaking, emerging from the field of over 30,000 participants worldwide. I had witnessed those magic moments at Denver, Colorado during the International Convention. Let me welcome the 2019 World Champion of Public Speaking, Aaron Beverly, to share his knowledge and expertise through this virtual webinar to the virtual audience from different parts of the world, especially from friends from the Middle East. Over to Aaron, please.
All right. Hello, everyone.
May I request all other attendees to off your camera, please. Over to you, Aaron.
All right. Thank you so much, Venkat. So firstly, I want to say a huge thank you to Venkat and Pavitra for setting this up. Unfortunately, I was not able to travel to Qatar, but through the power of technology, we are able to connect with one another. And I do want to say that the journey to become the world champion of public speaking is a very long road. I have been competing for the past 8 years. I started competing back in 2012. And when I started competing in 2012, I had the intention to become the world champion of public speaking. I thought that I was going to be the world champion of public speaking after competing for just 1 year. And you can imagine my great shock and surprise when I competed in 2012 and I dominated the club because I was the only one who participated. But when I got to the area, I placed second. I was really hurt by that. I was really defeated. And there was one person who came up to me afterwards and he told me, "Do you want to know why you lost?" Now, mind you, when you are competing in the international speech contest and you don't advance, the last thing that you want to hear is somebody telling you why you lost. But what he ended up telling me was that I needed to work on my storytelling, that I needed to have more steak instead of sizzle, meaning that I needed to have more substance in what I was talking about. And that really inspired me to start what I have now, which is just my process for creating and enhancing my presentations. I will go over 10 steps with you. These are 10 steps that I used in 2019 when I became the world champion, but I also used them in 2016 when I made it to the World Championship of Public Speaking for the first time and placed second in 2016. So if you do have your notebooks with you, I ask you to please take notes. If we have time, I will cover certain questions from that were pre-selected and we'll go over those. But if you have any other questions, you can definitely feel free to reach out to me online, and I will share my online information with you at the end of this session. So the first step in my process is an extremely important part. This is the golden rule, and it is KYA, know your audience. There are different ways that you can know your audience. The best way to know your audience is to actually engage with the people who will be in your audience. So if you are a Toastmaster, we usually engage with our fellow Toastmasters throughout the meetings, throughout conferences. So it's easier to gauge that type of audience. You also want to ask people who have experience with that audience. So if you are competing in the international speech contest and you've only made it to a certain level, you've only made it to the area, let's say, you want to make sure that you learn from other people who have spoken to people at the division and to people at the district. So that way you can get a sense of what it is like to listen, to speak in front of that audience. So KYA, know your audience. The reason why this is incredibly important is because you can have a great speech, but if it is for the wrong audience, or if it's not tailored to your audience, it will fail. You can fail in a speech before you ever say a word. So that is why I cannot stress it enough. You must know your audience. So once you know your audience and you are comfortable that you are going to be able to tailor a message to that audience, it's time for step number 2. And this is the second most important. I call it detox, and the acronym is DTOKS. DTOKS. I call it my do, think, or know summary. You have to ask yourself a question. What do you want the audience to do, think, or know by the time you are done speaking? What do you want the audience to do, think, or know by the time you are done speaking? Now, the key to this is that you have to do it. You have to summarize that in 10 words or less. Now, if you cannot get it to 10 words or less, then that likely means that the subject that you were talking about is too complicated, that it needs to be simplified. And I guarantee that if the subject is too complicated for you, it will definitely be too complicated for your audience, and there will be confusion. So DTOKS, detox. What do you want the audience to do, think, or know by the time you are done speaking? The next step is I write out my entire speech. I will write out the entire draft verbatim. I know a lot of people, they may not like to write their speeches. This is just what I do. I'm not saying that my way is the only way. And that is actually something that I do want to stress. There is no such thing as the way. There is only a way, and it is up to you to find your way. What I'm telling you is my way, the way that I create my speeches. And I will write out every single word. Now, when I'm writing out my speech, I try to include all of the regular vocabulary that I use in my everyday speech. So that way the words are come more easily to me. For those of you who may not like to write on a computer or write physically on pen and paper, technology can help you out here. One of the things that I have recently learned about is dictation. If you have an iPhone or an Android device, if you go to any application where you can write text, you will be able to see your keyboard, and next to the spacebar, there will be a small microphone. If you click on that microphone, it will go into dictation mode. And when it's in dictation mode, all the words that you are speaking will be written down by the device. So this is an easy way for those of you who may not like the writing process to be able to speak your speeches out and have it transcribed for you automatically. I will say though that there are some limitations to this method. If you are speaking, you obviously cannot see every single word that is being typed. The dictation is not always 100% accurate, so you definitely will have to go back and edit. In addition to that, the dictation apps do not have an indicator of punctuation. So if you have a sentence, you have to actually say period for the dictation app to put a period or a comma or any type of punctuation. Lastly, there is a time limit to how long you can speak before the application will stall out. It's usually about a minute for me on my iPhone, or I can speak for a minute, and then once that minute is done, it'll stop and I have to press that microphone button again for the dictation to continue. There are some applications. For instance, I use an application called Speechy, S-P-E-E-C-H-Y, Speechy. And with this application, I'm able to use dictation for an unlimited time. So I can just keep my phone on, and as I talk, the dictation app will keep going and going until I physically press the stop button. So again, another way that you can write out your speech if you don't like the writing process. That was step number 3. Step number 4. Step number 4, I will read my script verbatim and record myself, audio record myself while doing it. When I am listening to myself, when I am recording myself, I am reading the script verbatim and I'm trying to include all of the vocal variety, all of the pacing that I would use if I were giving that speech to an audience that day. Now, there are people who do not like the process of recording themselves. And that is because they know that once we are complete with step number 4, we are going to have to go to step number 5. Step number 5 is listen to the recording. There are a lot of people who say that, yes, I record myself for every single speech that I do. But if you ask those same people, how many of them actually listen or watch their recordings, you will find that there are a lot less people. People do not like the way that they sound. But there is actually a scientific reason behind this. It all has to do with what is called conduction. You have air conduction and you have what's called bone conduction. Air conduction is how you are hearing me right now. My sound is going through the air and it's traveling to your ears. That's air conduction. Bone conduction is when you hear yourself talk. The sound is going through the air, but the majority of the sound that you hear when you talk is going through the bones and the muscles in your body and is traveling up to your ear that way. What's interesting about air conduction and bone conduction is that air conduction is higher frequencies travel faster and better through the air. Lower frequencies travel best through bone conduction. Therefore, when you hear yourself talk, you are hearing it primarily through bone conduction, and those lower frequencies are what's reaching your ear. But when you hear yourself on a recorder, you're just hearing it through air conduction. It's not that your voice sounds bad, it just sounds different from how you normally hear yourself. And a lot of people do not like this difference in sound. But if you ever listen to yourself and you do not like the way that you sound, please just remember these words. This is my voice. This is my recording. This is how I sound. I need to deal with it. Now, there are certain things that you can do to improve the quality of your voice or the power in your voice, and that all comes through breathing. I won't get too much into that right now because we're going to have to go into the other parts of the process. But if you do have any questions about that, you can let me know after this session. So I record myself and listen to the recording. When I listen to the recording, I am listening for any grammatical mistakes that I make. I am listening for any opportunities that I can improve the presentation. I become my best or worst, depending on how you look at it, my best or worst evaluator. I will make sure that I go through every line, make sure that every line sounds correct and that it sounds natural to me. And what do I mean by natural? I mean that the words that I speak, does it come out fluidly? Do I struggle with any of the words that I have written down? If I struggle with a word, it's probably because I don't use the word commonly in my everyday language. So if you don't use it in your everyday language and you find yourself tripping up over a certain word, that's an indicator that you should change the word or really put some extra focus into practicing the right pronunciation of that word. That's what I listen to, or that's what I listen for when I am speaking and listening to my recording. The next step, step number 6, is to rewrite, re-listen, rewrite, record, re-listen, repeat. Rewrite, record, re-listen, repeat. Basically, I'm going to go over those last few steps that we went over and over and over again. So once I listen to the speech, I will then edit based on what I heard and evaluate it for myself. I will then take that edited document or that edited script. Then I will record myself reading that script again. I will listen to that recording and see if I can find any other grammatical mistakes, see if I can find any other areas of opportunity to improve the presentation. I will do that cycle over and over and over again. There is no set number of how many times that you do this. It depends on the person and how comfortable you are with your own presentation. But once I have finally gotten my speech or presentation to a point that I like, I will then take it to step number 7. Tape in front of a live studio audience. Tape in front of a live studio audience. Now, your presentation needs to be tested on an audience. This can be a small audience. It can be a large audience. There is no quota that you have to meet for this step. But you just want to make sure that the audience is live and that you are able to record yourself, video record yourself while you speak to that audience. A lot of us, we utilize our Toastmaster clubs to practice our speeches. That is a great place to record and get the live feedback from the audience. Because when you record yourself, video record yourself, not only do you get to see what you're doing, not only do you get to hear the words that you're saying, you also get to hear the audience live feedback. Here is where you can test out your humor. If you've written some funny lines that you think are absolutely hilarious, now's the time where you can test them out. If you hear the audience laugh, you know that you're onto something. If you get nothing from them, then that's an indicator that you need to either rework that humor, change the delivery in how you gave that humor, or it just may be that it's not funny to other people. So you may need to take it out. This is very critical because the audience will decide what should and what should not go into your speech. So if you hear the audience laugh at your pieces of humor, then that's an indicator that you can keep that content in your speech. If you hear the audience react in another way, for instance, if they're surprised, if they're shocked, if they're saddened, you can listen for those different reactions. And then that'll be an indicator for you whether you need to keep that piece of content or whether you need to change it. But I do want to say something about the way that you look in your appearance on stage. Obviously, with a video recording, you can see if you're a person who paces around the stage aimlessly or whether you move with intention. You can see if you are a person who puts their hands in their pocket, etc. However, when it comes to the delivery of your content, you really need to pay attention with what you are doing as you are delivering certain lines. For instance, if you deliver a humorous line and nobody laughs, don't be so quick to take it out of your presentation just yet. Make sure that you look at what you were doing as you delivered it. Did you deliver it correctly? Was there something that you were doing with your body or with your facial expression that distracted the audience from the line? Humor is very finicky in that slight changes can evoke humor, or it may completely eviscerate any humor that you may have had. So you want to make sure that you are expressing correctly in your body what you are expressing verbally. And it doesn't just apply to humor, it applies for any other type of emotion that you are trying to convey in your presentation. Without video recording myself, I would not have gotten to the world stage in 2016. I would not have gotten to the world stage in 2019. This is a very important step. And I assure you, it is no easier listening to yourself than it is watching yourself. It will still be uncomfortable, but guess what? Just how that is how you sound, that is also how you look. The good thing is that you can change how you look a little bit more easily than you can change the way that you sound. For instance, you can always stand up straighter. You can smile to the audience. There are various things that you can do physically to change your appearance on stage. But that's it for step number 7. Step number 8 is another very important part. You want to listen to and apply feedback, but with caution. Toastmasters is a great organization and it is built on feedback. However, sometimes that feedback is like drinking from a fire hose. You get a lot of feedback and you don't know which feedback to take. Me personally, I had to learn how to apply feedback filters to my presentation. What are certain feedback filters? Well, one feedback filter that I utilized is what I call my circle of counsel. My circle of counsel is a small group of individuals who I know personally who can review my speech, and I will give them as much authority over the changes in my speech as I give to myself. I like to say that when it comes to my presentations, I am the judge, I am the jury, and if need be, I am the executioner. Everyone else is just a lawyer trying to present their case. But for my circle of counsel, they are people who I trust, whose opinions I trust, and I will change my speeches if they advise me to do so. But there are certain types of roles that I have for the people in my circle of counsel. I have 3 people in my circle of counsel. The first 2 are my mother and my sister. Their job in my circle of counsel is to make sure that when I am on stage and they see me on stage, their job is to make sure that the person speaking on that stage is the same person that they engage with every day. Basically, they measure my authenticity. If I do something that is totally against the values that I grew up with, that is totally against everything that they knew about me, I'm expecting my mother and my sister to tell me about it. Now, I cannot go to my mother and my sister for the fundamentals of public speaking or stage presence or anything that is related to the Toastmasters International Speech Contest. So I need someone else in my circle of counsel who has that expertise. And for me, that was the only speech coach and mentor that I ever had. His name is Dilip Abesekara. He was the 2005-2006 president of Toastmasters International and the person who introduced me to Toastmasters. He just so happened to be an adjunct professor on my very small college campus. And his job in my circle of counsel is to tell me, am I doing things right in terms of public speaking? Am I speaking correctly? Do I have the right projection? Do I have the right stage presence? This is his job in my circle of counsel. I'm not giving him the task of seeing if I am authentic or not. Because while he knows me, he does not know me as well as my mother and sister. So therefore, he does not have as much knowledge to give me feedback on whether I am being authentic or not. Now, your circle of counsel can differ from mine. It doesn't have to be 3 people. It can be more, but how many people you put in, however, how many people you put into your circle of counsel, make sure that they are people who you trust, people who will give you unbiased feedback, because that is critical to any feedback process. Now, that's one feedback filter, my circle of counsel. Another feedback filter that I use is just time. I will be honest with you. Personally, I do not like feedback because I work extremely hard on my speeches. And how dare you tell me that this speech that I worked on is not perfect in every single way? Now, mind you, I know that the speech is not perfect in every single way. And I know that feedback is valuable, but you still have that sense of attachment and emotion to your presentations. When this happens and I get feedback on a speech, I will automatically sit on it for at least a day. So I will take the feedback, but I will not apply it immediately. I will sit on it, allow time to pass, so that way the emotion that I had behind that feedback can subside. Once the feedback or the emotion to the feedback has subsided, then I can start thinking about it more objectively. Once I think about it more objectively, it starts to make a little bit more sense of what people said. For instance, there was one person who told me that my 2019 speech, the title was too long. At the time, I had a 10-word title, and I was intending to use that as a reference to my 2016 speech where I had 57 words in my title. This person told me, though, that there wasn't a stark enough contrast. And when I first heard that feedback, I didn't want to implement it. I wanted to keep my 10-word title because I thought that it was still going to evoke the same type of humor. But once I allowed the time to pass and the emotion to subside, I realized that they were absolutely right, that the contrast was not enough. Therefore, I decided to trim down my speech title to only 3 words. And it became an unbelievable story. Now, I'm not saying that with that feedback that I would or would not have won the world championship, but I'll just leave that for you to decide. Now, when it comes to unsolicited feedback, that feedback is valuable as well. But you do have to apply the feedback filters to it even more. The thing about Toastmasters is that whether you want to or not, people will give you feedback. But if you apply feedback filters, you can see if it's something that you have to implement. But one thing that I will say, and the final feedback filter that I will give you, is your own understanding. Never implement feedback just because somebody said to do it. If you do not understand it, do not implement it. It could be that that feedback just doesn't resonate with your speaking style, or it could mean that you are not ready to receive that lesson. There have been times where I've received feedback that I didn't understand, so I didn't implement it. Only when I had certain experiences later down the line did I understand what was said before, and then I implemented that feedback years later. So if you don't understand the feedback, and even as time passes, you still don't understand it, I implore you to not implement it unless you fully understand what it is that you are doing. That is step number 8. Step number 9 is to set a cutoff date. Set a cutoff date for any editing that you are making to your speeches. Personally, I have a general rule to cut all edits at least 2 days before the presentation. For the World Championship and the semifinals for the World Championship, I decided that I was going to lock my speeches a week before. Therefore, I would not change anything. There were people at the 2019 convention in Denver who asked me, "Hey, Aaron, if you want to run by your speeches with me, just let me know." And I'm thinking to myself, no, I'm not going to run by my speeches with anyone, because I knew that if I gave my presentation, they would give me feedback. And I don't necessarily have to apply that feedback. But I also didn't want to run the risk of changing my presentation based off of their reactions to my presentation. So you want to make sure that you lock in your presentations. Now, you can make changes at the last minute. And for a lot of people, I know Toastmasters love using the callback. So they'll take a reference that was made earlier in the day, and then they will incorporate it into their own speeches. And this is good. It works for a lot of people. But I will say that when you make those last minute changes, they can be a double-edged sword. For instance, 2016 World Championship of Public Speaking. There was one person who decided to get on stage, and he heard something funny given from an earlier contestant, so he was going to incorporate it into his speech. He did that, and it worked really well. The audience laughed for about 5 seconds, and it worked really well for him. But as we know, for those of us who have competed in the international speech contest, the speeches are timed. Unfortunately, this person was disqualified because his speech went over time by around 5 seconds. So even though his last minute change worked well, in the long run, it ended up hurting him. So you want to make sure that if you are incorporating those last second changes, that you try to curtail the risk as much as possible. Now, there are other occasions where I say that you do need to change at the last minute, and that is when you know that you are delivering incorrect information. If you know that you are delivering incorrect information, then you know you have to change it. If the changes are going to drastically change your presentation, and this it falls more in line to the workplace, ask if you can have an extension. If you can take the new knowledge that you have and reincorporate it into the presentation. Now, it may be bad to ask for more time or an extension, but I assure you that it looks even worse if you get up on stage or if you get in front of a group at your workplace and present incorrect information. When you make the cutoff for editing, at this point in the process, you should have a great audio recording of your speech. You should have a great video recording of your speech. For me, I will listen and watch those recordings over and over and over again, because this helps me internalize my speech. When I am internalizing my speech, I do it best through audio. It's like listening to your favorite song. I'm pretty sure a lot of us have a favorite song that we know almost all of the words to. It's because we've listened to it multiple times and we know every single line. So when we listen to our speech, we can pretty much do the same thing. We can internalize our speeches by listening to them over and over and over again. That way, it's easier for you to just recall the words and speak them out rather than trying to physically remember every single line. So that is step number 9. Now, step number 10 is actually happens after you've given the final presentation, and that is review that final presentation. The review process isn't just to lead up to the final presentation. You should also review your final presentation. This way you can see all of the planning that you put in. Did you execute it properly? I will tell you, one of my greatest regrets was in the 2016 contest. Now, I didn't regret it because I placed second, because second place out of 30,000 people is a tremendous accomplishment. My regret was that I didn't execute my plan. I didn't execute the speech the way that I thought it should have been executed. So what I did, I took my 2016 speech, I looked it over, I reviewed it, and you can actually see my review on YouTube. You can search my YouTube channel, Aaron Beverly. I reviewed my speech and I found out where I messed up or where my plan went awry. Once I did that, I made it my mission to get back on the world stage and ensure that I executed my speech the correct way. This is something that you really have to do as a presenter. If you are truly dedicated to the art of public speaking and you want to get better at speaking, you have to constantly review your presentations. This is the process from steps 1 to 10 that I took to win the World Championship of Public Speaking. And again, I tell you that this is just my way, and there is no such thing as the way. There is only a way, and it is up to you to find your way. So as you review your notes that you've taken, or that I assume that you've taken, circle the ones that you like the best and incorporate them into your public speaking preparation processes. If they don't work for you, take them out and try to find something new. But all I'm telling you is that you should build a process to get better as a speaker, because that will help you out in the long run. So those are my 10 steps in my process. And what I'll do now, we have some questions that were pre-selected and sent to me, so I will read them off. And we have about 10 minutes before I conclude, so let's get to it. The first question that I have: what was the one factor that made you consistently take part in the speech contest? The one factor that really made me compete in the international speech contest from 2012 all the way up to 2019 was growth. At first, I will admit that I wanted to compete in the international speech contest for the trophies and the accolades. But as time progressed, I realized that I wasn't necessarily going to get to the World Championship or win it. So I had to find some other way to motivate myself to get into the speech contest. And every single time I competed in the international speech contest, I got better as a speaker. And seeing that growth in myself really inspired me to keep going. It came to a point where I didn't make the international speech contest or winning the international speech contest, the world championship of public speaking, my goal. I realized that the world championship of public speaking was not a goal because I could not control the outcome. So what I ended up doing, I just said it's a dream and I do want to win the world championship, but my goal is to grow. And I will say that the 1 year that I finally decided to not make winning the world championship of public speaking my goal, I won the world championship of public speaking. Question number 2. What was the most difficult, challenging part in your championship journey? I honestly feel that the most difficult part is when you don't advance. Because you put a lot of effort, you put a lot of time into your presentations, and it gets to a certain level, but then it doesn't advance. And it is heartbreaking. And I will tell people, there is nothing wrong with being disappointed in a contest result. The problem lies is when people start to hold on to those negative emotions. So they are down for too long because of the speech contest. Or even worse, they start blaming other people as to why they did not win. So they'll blame the judging, they'll blame the other contestants. They will put a lot of blame on and in a lot of places other than where it should be, on themselves. Sometimes there is nothing that you could have done for your speech at that time. It is just up for you to get better as a speaker. You can't control the judging. You cannot control the skill level of your opponent. All you can control is you. So it's difficult to deal with the heartbreak of not advancing in the speech contest, but don't hold on to those negative emotions and always strive to become a better speaker. The next question that we have is, what is your advice for new Toastmasters, especially those who joined when they are old? You are never too old to get better at a skill, especially public speaking. But I believe there is a challenge for a lot of people who are older and even people who have reached certain senior levels in their workplace. I find that people who are senior in a workplace, they are more reluctant to join a Toastmasters club because they feel that they've reached this senior level. They don't want to be put in a situation where they seem junior. So these people will actually not join a Toastmaster club because they don't want to be seen as lesser of a person to their juniors or their peers. This isn't the right mentality, and the mentality that you should be going for is, again, growth. You can only control you. Don't worry about other people. So if you're an older Toastmaster and you're coming in, don't look at the younger Toastmasters who are just as skilled or more skilled than you. Just worry about your own growth. If you worry about other people, that is when you're going to get the most discouraged, and that is when you are more likely to quit. The next question, share your thoughts and experiences in a Toastmasters journey. How did it help you professionally? I would say the main way that the Toastmasters International Speech Contest helped me professionally was just increasing my confidence. As I became a better speaker, I gained more confidence, and that translated into the workplace. So I was able to speak to more senior leaders because I had the confidence that I could speak and that I could speak to a large audience. I actually recently gave a message at one of my senior leaders' town halls. This was something before I would not have been able to do. But because I have the experience of participating in the international speech contest, because I have spoken in front of audiences as large as 2,000 people, I felt comfortable being in that situation in the workplace. So that's the main way that I believe that it's helped me professionally, is through my confidence. But just the ability to network with people through the Toastmasters organization is extremely helpful. I have my job as a project manager because of my networking with Toastmasters. The next question: how did you manage to conquer your fear? The answer to that one is that I didn't. I still have fear. I still have anxiety when I go up on a stage. But I've learned how to deal with that fear. I've learned how to manage that fear so that it's not too much of a distraction once I get out on stage. The main thing that I try to do is not worry about what I'm anxious about or what I fear. I instead focus on my message and what I intend to give. In the 2019 speech contest or World Championship of Public Speaking, I literally sat backstage, listened to music that was empowering, that was encouraging, and that way I could get my mind off of any fears or anxiety about speaking. If I wasn't listening to that encouraging and inspiring music, I was listening to my speech and focusing on my message. So don't think too hard about what it is that you fear or the anxiety that you have. Number 6, what has changed for you since winning the World Championship of Public Speaking? I would say the main thing that has changed for me since winning the World Championship of Public Speaking is that a lot more people know my name. A lot more people want to be connected with me on social media. Before the World Championship of Public Speaking, I had about 2,000 friends on Facebook. I'm now approaching the 5,000 mark, and I also have more followers on Instagram. I also have more followers on YouTube. So a lot more people know who I am, and a lot more people want to seek my knowledge because I am what's considered a subject matter expert when it comes to speaking. Now, I will say, though, that my skill set has not drastically changed from the time that I was second place from now. It's just because I won the title. And I know this, I embrace it, because I know that people are following me because I'm the World Championship of Public Speaking. But I believe that when people are following you or want to know more about you because of what you are, that is when you have the opportunity to show them who you are. So my mission now is to show people who I am. I am not just Aaron Beverly, the World Championship of Public Speaking. More than that, I am just Aaron Beverly, a lover of public speaking. Next, what are the tips you want to give others who dream of becoming the world champion one day? Honestly, all of the steps that I gave you are the tips that I would recommend that you use for the World Championship of Public Speaking or the International Speech Contest. But I will reiterate that the World Championship of Public Speaking is not a goal because you cannot control it. You cannot control the judging and you cannot control the skill level of your opponent. You can only control your growth. So as you go into the speech contest, have a mentality to grow in every single round. Set a goal in every round, something that you want to work on every single round, whether it's vocal variety, whether it's projection, whether it's just remembering your speech. Set a goal in every round of the contest. How did the mentor-mentee process help you in emerging as the world champion of public speaking? I mentioned before that Dilip Abeysekera, the 2005-2006 president of Toastmasters International, was the person who coached and mentored me. He was the only coach that I ever had, and he only coached me in 2013. He coached me on the fundamentals of public speaking. After that, I took his fundamentals and his lessons and I ran with them. I started incorporating them for myself and finding my own style. A lot of people reach out to me and ask, Aaron, can you mentor me? Can you coach me? And they're really just asking me to do this because they believe that I have some secret sauce to win the World Championship of Public Speaking. There is no world champion of public speaking who knows how to win the World Championship of Public Speaking. I will tell you that right now. And if any world champion says that they do, they are not telling the truth. We don't know why we became the world champion of public speaking, but we do know how to increase our chances of winning of the World Championship of Public Speaking, and that is improving your skill set as a speaker. And the last question that we have, and I know we are 1 minute over time, but we'll just get through this one quickly. As a working professional, how do you manage your time for contest and speech preparation? You have to utilize the resources that you currently have the best way possible. In 2016, 2019, actually all through the time that I competed in the international speech contest, I didn't have access to dozens of clubs because I didn't have a car. I couldn't drive around to all of the different clubs in my area, division, and district to practice my speech. So I had to use what I had. I had my cell phone, which I used to record my speeches. And I listened to those recordings, and I became my own best evaluator. The feedback that I did get, I really thought about it. Again, I allowed time to pass to allow the emotion to get out of it. And then I implemented what I thought was feasible or what I thought was doable in my presentation. Then I also just went onto YouTube and researched anything that I could find. I looked at past world champions, but I didn't just look at the world champions. I looked at the second place winners. I looked at the third place winners. I looked at people who didn't get to the district level. I looked at area contests. I looked at division contest. I looked at a wide array of speakers. And another thing, I didn't even stick with just watching Toastmasters. This is another problem that a lot of speakers have when they want to win the World Championship of Public Speaking. They will only look at the Toastmasters and World Champions of Public Speaking. The public speaking world is a lot bigger than the World Champions. The world is a lot bigger than Toastmasters International. There are a lot of great speakers out there. Learn from them as well. And those are the questions. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen. I hope that I was able to give you something that you can use. For those of you, I know that I did see some questions in the chat, but unfortunately we won't be able to get to those. But if you do have questions, you can reach out to me. My email address is aaron@speakandbu.com. That is Aaron, AARON, @speak, SPEAKANDBEYOU.com. And Venkat, back to you.
Thank you very much, Aaron. It was a highly informative session, and so all the appreciation goes to you. And may I invite our District Program Quality Director, DTM Tayalan, to deliver a vote of thanks.
Hi, greetings to everyone. We had a wonderful session now by our World Champion of Public Speaking, Toastmaster Aaron Beverly, with the topic, The Process, a Guide to Construct, Practice, and Enhance Your Presentation. So first I was thinking, what is this new topic? Some intriguing topic, but after that, when I heard the presentation, I'm really convinced it is a right topic at the right time for the right audience, because we are all coming towards the contest season, and it is a real value addition for all the participants today. We are more than 100 participants, around 70 plus directly coming on the line. And we have a District 116 XCOM, around 30 plus people sitting in one place and listening to Toastmaster Aaron. It was a great session. Even though I heard and attended several seminars and keynote addresses, but today I had some new takeaways also. So notably, I can say 3-4 things. One is that detox. Then second one is tape the in front of the live audience. Then circle of counsel, and the fantastic one is the set a cutoff date and colloquial speech. No, that is the first time I am hearing that. It's a great takeaway. On behalf of the District 116, I sincerely thank World Champion of Public Speaking Toastmaster Aaron Beverly for accepting our request and doing this webinar for us today. It is a real valuable session for us. Thank you so much for your time and presentation. And this webinar is attended not only by District 116 people, even people from outside the district throughout the world. We sincerely thank each and every person who attended this webinar. Right? And also in the meantime, I wanted to thank two key people who were behind the success of this webinar. That is our district administration manager, Toastmaster Pavitra Philip. She is the one right from the beginning till today. She is on top of the game to ensure everything is moving well. And Toastmaster Aaron is with us on this particular time. Then we have our district PR manager, Venkat. He is also as a technical expert, and he ensured that everything is going, because yesterday also he came here to test everything. Today also, before everyone assembled, he was here to ensure that everything is going on well. So my sincere thanks to both of them. And above all, our district director, DTM Raghavan Menon, he was ensuring that everything is going on well. Thank you very much to all of you once again. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, DTM Thayalan, once again. And once again, thank you very much to Aaron Beverly and all the attendees. Share your feedback to us. I know Aaron don't like feedbacks, but again, you please share your feedback and we will consolidate. And even if you have any questions, please share with us and we will send it to Aaron and we can come back to you on that. Thank you so much once again. Until we meet again, it's Venkat. Any clarifications you can write to us, tm.kvinky@gmail.com, your district 116 PR manager. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much.
Hi, Aaron. Thank you very much. This is Pavitra.
Thank you. And take care, everyone.
Very much. I just want to ask you, how is your mom? I met her in Denver. I was with her. I was sitting with her for almost 30 minutes.
Yo, she's doing great. She's as happy as can be.
Yeah, please convey our regards from District 116, Doha, Qatar.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Aaron, we do have one informal question from one of the attendees. Did you really attend the wedding in India? How is Brandon and Devika now?
They're both fine. I actually had a post recently on Facebook of me going out and having dinner with them. I paid for their dinner because of them, I'm the world champion of public speaking. They got married.
Thank you. Convey our regards to your mom and the Brandon Devika.
Will do.
It was really pleasure to have you on board. Thank you so much once again. Thank you so much to all the attendees once again. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Super, darling. Fantastic. Amma.
Very good.
Very good.